and welcome to my channel. My name is Sophia and today I wanted to show you guys how to make this top. So this is the tutorial that I will be showing you how to make. It's this crop top style with sleeves, but it's very, very customizable. You can make pretty much any size you want using your own specific dimensions. So this is the one that I ended up making, and yeah, I hope this tutorial works for you and I hope you enjoy. So here it is. Okay, so this shirt is extremely customizable to basically whatever size you want. For me, I'm going to be using this Loops and Threads Facets acrylic yarn. Just wanted to jump in to say that I ended up using a little over 1 ball of yarn for this, like almost close to 1.5 balls of yarn. So if you are making the exact same size, which I doubt, and using the exact same yarn and hook size, you're gonna need 2 balls. It won't be good with just 1. So I would say for this exact size, you'll need maybe close to like 300 to 400 meters of yarn. But again, it's all based on your size that you are making. So the yarn amount is gonna be different for every person. This is also perfect for like a scrap yarn project. This is just one that I had on hand, but I think the colors will be super cute, but you could also switch colors throughout the project. Like this is a weight 4, a medium weight yarn, and it calls for a 6mm hook. This is, you can do pretty much any yarn you want with this. However, I wouldn't go to a bulky or a super bulky weight yarn just because that'll look, I think, maybe a little bit awkward, like it'll just be too thick of a yarn. So I would go probably medium weight or under, but just go with what you want, right? Like this is a really customizable top, so it's great for that. And the hook size that it says, I would recommend going half size or full size up from that. So for me, I'm going to go to a 6.5mm hook, and I called for 6mm just because 7mm would be a little bit too big. So just look and see how you feel. The first step is obviously to get your yarn, but then it's going to be to find the size that you want. So for what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do it a little bit more form-fitting, and I already made this one that I really like the way that that fits. So I'm going to do it basically like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain, I'll show you better when I'm actually chaining it, but I'm going to chain the biggest part of my body where it's going to be, which is like my shoulders and my bust area. And I will chain half of the total, like for the front panel. I'll chain how big the front panel needs to be. But if you don't want it to be fitting so form-fittingly, you could always take a t-shirt that you know how it fits. Like this t-shirt is a little bit more oversized, so if I wanted to make it fit like this, because I like the way this t-shirt fits, I could chain the amount that goes halfway this, like, you know, that goes from here to here. I could chain that, and then I'll know that it'll fit similarly to this shirt. Okay, so I'm sorry for the glare, but this is the best clear surface that I have. So to start with, what I do is a slip knot, and this, sorry if you see this mark that I have here. So to slip knot is what I do is I take the yarn in my hand like this, wrap it around my 2 fingers, and then back again and hold it with this finger so that you have this sort of X formation here. And then what you do is you go under this one, pull this one through, and then you make this slip knot, which you can tighten and loosen. I know there's so many better videos on YouTube of how to do a slip knot, but that's just how I do it. And then we're gonna chain that amount. So I like to hold my yarn by wrapping it around and holding it like this. But again, there's so many better beginner videos on YouTube for how to properly hold your yarn. And it really is just up to you. So you don't have to do it like I'm doing it. And then we're gonna chain. So you're gonna go like this, pull through. That's chain 1, 2, and so on. You're gonna chain until it either fits halfway around your body in the biggest part, which for me is my bust area, or until it goes the length of the shirt that you were measuring. And you do wanna make sure that you count and keep track of the number that you do end up chaining. So I'll see you when I'm done my chains. So this is how much I chain. For me, I usually wear about a size small and sometimes a medium, and I'll show this is what it looks like on me. When you are doing this method and also the t-shirt method, you're gonna wanna make sure that you pull it a little bit, because when we add the stitches, it will expand just a little bit. You wanna pull it a little bit, but not so much, because it won't end up, like if you do this much and that's how much fits perfectly, it's going to end up being too small. But also you could end up making it a bit big. So you just want to make sure that you make it a little bit taut, but not too much for the size that you want. So that's what mine looks like. It's just a little bit pulled. And for me, I ended up chaining 60. And again, I usually wear a size small and sometimes medium. So if you have the same body proportions, you could also chain 60, but just make sure that you hold it up against yourself or again, against a favorite item of clothing that fits you well, and make sure that that chain is right. So you just want to keep in mind that number that you chained, because we're going to have to do this again for the back panel, of course. And then I have 60, but I'm going to chain one more, which doesn't count in the actual amount that we chained, because this is going to be the turning chain basically. And then what we're going to do for this row is we're going to do single crochets all the way down. So we're going to skip that chain that we just made and go into this one, the 60th chain, pull up and pull through. That's a single crochet. And we're going to do that all the way down until we get to the first chain that we made. Okay, so I did the single crochets all the way to the end. You may notice that your work is twirling a bit like this. That's okay. And I would just recommend to put this up against your body again and make sure that it still fits in the way that you wanted it to, because it won't stretch too much from here. So for the next row, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to do single crochets all the way across. And what you're going to do is just chain one again to turn. Chain one when we do single crochets, and then you're going to turn your work. So it was like this, and now it's like this. And pick up the yarn, of course. And then we're going to go right into there and single crochet all the way across. Just like that. This is going to be our second row of single crochets, and then we're going to do one more row of single crochets for a total of 3 rows of single crochets. And this is because we're working up from the bottom of the shirt, and that 3 rows of single crochets just helps it to make a really nice border. All right, I'm almost at the end, and I just wanted to say to make sure to go into this stitch right here. Might be confusing, this one, because it looks a little different from the others. But you can just go into a normal single crochet. So that is my second row of single crochets done. You can see the variegation of this yarn is working out beautifully. And now we're going to do the third and final row of single crochets until we move on to a different stitch to get that sort of mesh scrappy feel. So again, chain one, turn the work, and into this stitch, single crochet, single crochet, and so on. So I have finished the 3 rows of single crochet. Looks like this, my variegation of this yarn. Now we are going to do something a little bit different, a little bit more exciting. We are going to do half double crochets with a 1 chain gap. This shirt is perfect if you are new to crochet because it's fairly simple. It's just like a box with some sleeves, but it also gets you used to new crochet stitches. Like basically we use nearly all of them. So what we're going to do for this one is we are also going to chain just 1 because we're doing half double crochet, turn our work like we did before, and to do half double crochet in this first stitch we are going to yarn over on our hook like so, put it into the stitch, pull up. Now we should have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over this one again and pull through all of them. Just like that. So that is a half double crochet, and we're going to be doing 1 chain gap so we get that mesh look. What we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 just like we did at the beginning, and instead of going into this next stitch we're actually going to skip 1 and go into here and do a half double crochet again. So we're going to yarn over, put our hook through, pull up, and pull through all of the loops on our hook. So that's what it should look like. Again, we're going to chain 1, and we're not going to go into this next stitch, but we're going to go into this one. So we're skipping 1 and doing a half double crochet like so. That's what it should be looking like. And we're going to do this just like we did with the single crochets all the way until we get to the end. In this top, we're never going to be switching the style of a stitch or crochet thing until the end of each row. So it's perfect if you wanted to change colors because you can do so at the end of a row. We're not going to be doing anything different in the middle of any of these rows. So I'm at the end and I have just done a half double crochet, but there's only one stitch left. If this happens to you, don't worry, just don't do a chain one, and we're just gonna half double crochet in there. This is a really forgiving pattern just because of how many different stitches we are using. So in the end times, you know, when this is over, no one's actually gonna notice that you did 2 half double crochets beside each other instead of a chain one gap. So that's how mine is looking like. So beautiful with this colors. I really recommend this Facets yarn. I just got it at Michael's. And for the next row, we are going to do another one that has a gapping. So for this time, we're going to be doing triple crochet or treble crochet. And what we're going to do for this one is we are going to chain 2 this time, turn our work as always. And this is going to be a little bit more tricky, but nothing that you can't overcome. We're going to do this. So we're going to put 2 loops on our hook, yarn over twice, insert, pull that through. So we should have 4 loops on our hook. You're gonna pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2, just like that. Then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip this stitch right here and go into this one with, again, do that, go in here, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. It's called a triple crochet because we are pulling through the 2 loops 3 times. Chain 1, skip this stitch, go into this one, like so, insert, pull through, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This is what it should be looking like, and as always, I'll meet you at the end. So I just have the 1 stitch left, and again, I have to do a triple crochet in there, even though I just did a triple crochet. No worries, as I said. Just make sure that you're not missing that last stitch, because then it's going to get smaller and smaller as you go up. One thing about me is that I'm not a perfectionist crocheter. So if you are, sorry, but this might not be the best tutorial. Now we're going to take it back to the basics with another 3 rows of the single crochet. So I'll do it with you because it might be a little bit tricky to see where you need to go into, but as always, we're going to chain 1 for the single crochets and turn our work. And you can see how those gaps are looking so nice. And then we're going to go into here, single crochet, into here, and then we have a chain 1 gap. So it can be really hard to get your hook into that chain. Don't worry, you can just go into the gap like so. And then we have a nice proper stitch into there, into the gap, and so on. Basically, you're going to be going into the gap and then into the proper stitch, on and on. So I'm nearing the end of that first row of single crochets, and you are just going to want to make sure that you go into that last stitch again, this weird one here. Now, if those rows were a little bit tricky for you, I would recommend that you go back down and count how many single crochets that you had, just to make sure that you still have that amount that you originally chained. So for me, that was 60. I counted, and I still have 60 single crochets, 60 like of these loops. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way. Make sure you have that same number that you chained at the beginning. And once you've done that, we're going to do just 2 more of these single crochets. So again, we just chain 1 to turn. We go all the way down doing single crochets, and this time it'll be a lot easier to see where you need to go into. It's just these all the way down, and then do that again once more, and I'll meet you back when that's done. All right, I am at the end of those 3 single crochet rows. This is turning out so cute. I'm actually so happy that I used this yarn that I had in my stash, because just look at that. That is so spring and so perfect. For the next row, we are going to be doing double crochet and 1 chain gap. So very similar to what we did here and here, except we're introducing a new stitch, the double crochet. What we're going to do is, of course, I've just reached the last stitch. For double crochet, we are going to chain 2, turn our work, and to do a double crochet, you are going to yarn over once, insert, pull through. You should have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So double crochet because you're pulling through 2 twice. Then we're going to chain 1, just like we've been doing, skip this one, go into this one, double crochet, like so. Pull through 2, pull through 2, and then chain 1. Skipping this one, going into this one, double crochet. Just gonna keep doing that all the way down, just like we've been doing for all the other rows, and just making sure that we are skipping 1 and chaining 1 after every double crochet. So as always, I'm at the end and I have that row, so we're not gonna chain 1, just like we've been doing. We're just gonna go into there and do the double crochet. Perfect. For the next row, it's going to be very simple again. We're just gonna do 1 row of the single crochet. So chain 1 for the single crochet, turn our work, and just like we did here, we're going to go into this one, single crochet, this one, and then we're going to go into the gap, and then we're going to go into the proper stitch. So we're doing whatever we have to do at the beginning, and then we're doing gap and proper stitch. Just wanted to jump in here to say that if you want to stop and have rows repeating, so if you wanted to do like right where I'm jumping in and repeat these rows for easy so that you don't have to do so many random rows, you totally can if that's what you desire and if that's easier for you. Personally, I liked the way that it is so completely random and like so many different things because I just didn't like the look of being able to see the repeating rows. So that's why there's like no pattern or cohesiveness or whatever to the rows. It's just like random going, and then obviously it's the same in the back. But if you're more a beginner and you just want something that you can just keep repeating the rows, you can do that here and keep repeating these until you get to your desired length. But for me, I really like the way that it looks random, so if you want the random look as well, you can continue. Right, so did that, and I would just make sure that you are always counting how many you are doing to make sure that you still have that original amount that you chained at the beginning and that you're not missing any. What I'm going to do now is we're going to do triple crochet plus the 1 chain gap again. So this is repeat of what we did here, but I'll still show you. We're going to chain 2. You could also chain 3 if that makes you more comfortable, but I prefer to chain 2 because then I can clearly see the ending stitch and I'm making sure I'm not dropping any or adding any unnecessary ones. So we're going to turn our work. We are going to go into here with, see, you have to do 2, not just 1. We're going to go into here, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, chain 1, skipping this one, going into this one. So I'm not going to show you too many of these. Just see, oh my gosh, I was doing it wrong. I'm not going to show you too many of these, actually the right way, because we already did them before. So you should be a little bit comfortable with these. That is done. And for the next 4 rows, we are going to do the basic single crochet. So you can see there's a lot of variety in the way that the top looks, but now we're kind of getting to the point where the stitches that we're doing are pretty much the same. And yeah, we're just gonna do 4 single crochets. So I don't really need to show these because we've already done single crochet so much. We're gonna, of course, chain 1, turn. We're gonna do single crochet, into the gap, single crochet, into the gap, and so on and so forth, all the way down. And we're gonna do 4 rows of these total. Okay, those 4 rows of single crochet are done for me. Wow, I just can't get over this yarn. This is so beautiful. For the next 2 rows, we're gonna do the same thing that we did down here, which is going to be double crochet plus 1 chain gap. And that is gonna be for the next 2 rows. So we're going to chain 2, turn our work as always, and this should be easy by now, but we're going to do, this is how we do the double crochet, 3 loops on the hook, 1, 2, chain 1, skip 1, go into here. Beautiful. Easy because we already did this. And I'll catch you at the end of the row to show you how we're going to do the next row, which is the same, but it just might be confusing to know where to put our stitches. Okay, chain 2, as always, turn the work. And same thing as we did for the last row. double crochet, chain 1, skip this one into the gap. Then we're going to chain 1, skip this one, and into the gap. So for this row, we are going to be going into the gap only. So we're going to chain 1, and we're skipping this one and into the gap. Or if yours is just, if you chained a different number and it's just working up differently, you might be going into these ones only. Just do what is right for your project. And that might seem silly to say, but just because it is so customizable, yours might end up looking differently than mine because you made it a different size. And that's okay, but just do what your heart desires. For the next 2 rows, we're just going to be doing single crochet as we've done. So I hope this isn't too repetitive, but that's just how we get this thing. So yeah, single crochets for the next 2 rows. Okay, sorry for this change in lighting and position. I hope it's still, you're able to see. For the next row, after these 2 rows of single crochet, we are going to chain 2 to turn, and then we're going to do exactly what we did for these 2 rows, which is going to be double crochet plus a 1 chain gap. So just a refresher as to what that looks like. Yarn over, insert, pull through 2, pull through 2 again, and then we are going to chain 1 to skip that stitch and do the double crochet into the second one from the one we just did. The next row that we're going to do is going to be the same as this one, except we're not going to do the 1 chain gaps. We are just going to do a double crochet in every stitch. So what that's going to look like is chaining 2, going into this one, this double crochet into the next one, double crochet again, and then I'm going to go into the gaps, of course, doing a double crochet as normal. What we are going to do next is something that we did all the way down at the bottom right here, which is the half double crochet and 1 chain gap. So just a reminder as to what that looks like. We're going to chain 1 for the half double crochet, turn our work, and then we are going to do a half double crochet, which is you start like you're about to do a double crochet, but then you pull through all of them. Then we are going to chain 1, going into here, we're going to do the half double crochet again, like so, chain 1, and half double crochet. For the next row, we are going to do triple crochet and gap, which is what we did here and here. So I've already chained 2, turn my work, and sorry if this is really repetitive, but I just want to make sure that I explain each row. So if you're advanced crocheter, this might be a little bit annoying, so sorry about that. But this is the triple crochet again, going through 2, 2, and 2, chain 1, skip this one, and we're going to be going into here. Oh, see, I always almost do double crochet instead. The next row is very simple, something that we are very used to right now, or at this point in the piece, which is just going to be a row of single crochet all the way down. I don't need to show you because we've done this so many times before. For the next row, we are going to do just triple crochets, which is what we did here. So we're going to chain 2 and turn, but unlike this row, we are not going to be doing any chaining gaps. So we're going to go like so. Oopsie. 3. And then no chaining a gap. Ah, see, I always do it like that. No chaining a gap and going straight into the next stitch. So just like this all the way down. Another easy one, again, we are just going to do single crochet all the way down. And this, we are getting towards the end of the front panel at least, so bear with me. I know it's feeling like it's really long, but yeah, we're just gonna do single crochet for this one. We are going to first do a double crochet and 1 chain gap, which we are very familiar with. So we're going to chain 2 and then do our double crochet plus the 1 chain gap. And then for the last row, we're going to do a single crochet, which we are also very familiar with. So I'll just do double crochet and 1 chain gap all the way to the end, chain 1, turn your work, and then do single crochets all the way back. And I'll catch you then. All right, sorry if you can hear my vacuum upstairs. It's one of those little robot vacuums. It's going. But I wanted to show, so this is all the instructions that I have showed you guys so far. But for me, like I would try this on like this, even though it's just a flat piece of fabric, and see how long it is on you. If you have maybe taller or something, you may need more rows, and make sure that it's not like this, but make sure that it's right at the top of your shoulder, because that's where we're going to be connecting it. But for me, this goes to a few inches below my bust area with this yarn that I'm using. If you can see, it's like this, and this is exactly how I want it to look. I want it to be like kind of really cropped, so that, you know, I just like that look with the white tank top underneath for this style. But if this is like looking like more like this for you and it's just an uncomfortable length or something, what I would recommend is just going back in the video a few rows, so maybe to when we did this triple crochet or like here or something, and I would just add more rows until it is a comfortable length for you. So you see, this is what mine looks like. Yeah, but the one thing that I would say is to end on a single crochet row where we do just the single crochets, because otherwise it will be a little bit hard to attach it. And just for reference, 1 triple crochet row gives us, like, well, with the yarn that I'm using, this much height. So you're going to be adding like an inch every time you do that. So yeah, then we are going to, I'm trying to think if I want to add more rows. I think for me, I'm trying to figure out if I need more rows or if not. I think I might do 1 more row of triple crochet and then a single crochet just to end it off, because I don't know if it's too cropped. And then what we are going to have to do is do all of that again, what we just did, all of that, take off, like cut off your yarn and this piece, make sure you bind it off safely, and then go all of this again for the back panel or the front panel. They're interchangeable. And then I'll catch you guys when both of the panels are done. I wanted to show quickly how I bind off. I did end up doing 1 more row of triple crochet and gap and then single crochet. Those are previously in the video, just because I wanted it to be a smidge longer. But yeah, just do whatever length is comfortable for you. Put it on up to your body as I showed. But yeah, this is how I bind off. You can see we did have the end here. We're just going to chain 1 like we do when we need to turn a row, pull up some, and you don't need that much yarn right now. So we're just going to cut it off, you know, like that far. And then what you're going to do is with your hook, you're going to pull this like we're doing a chain, pull it all the way through to bind off, and then you can pull that tight, and that's not going anywhere. So that's perfect. Now I'm going to do the whole other panel off camera because I already showed all the instructions. So yeah, you can go rewind if you need to and do it all again, and then I'll catch you when we are attaching them together and doing the sleeves. All right, now once you have made your 2 panels, I have my 2 panels here. I kept the yarn attached. I didn't break off at the end. If you did, it's totally fine. It's not necessary, but I did my other panel. You can see here is where I switched yarn, so I have it sticking out there. That's all right too. Now you need to figure out how big do you want your neck hole to be. And again, you have to do this based on your size of your neck, or if you want it to be a wider neck, a tighter neck, very different depending on how you want it. And if you're using the t-shirt method, you can put it up to your t-shirt and then figure it out. But for me, I am going to be doing 15 stitches from each side, and this is what we're going to be attaching the 2 panels together, and then that will be my neck there. So that looks good to me because I want it to be a little bit bigger, but not so big. Like I don't want like a big boat neck. So I'm going to do 15 again from each side, and I'll show you how to do this. So for attaching, I have my yarn here, and you can see it's attached to this panel here. So I'm going to start on this side. But if you don't have the yarn attached, you can start on either side. But what you're going to need to do is take your other panel that you have made and make sure that you're attaching the top together so that the stitches line up going down. And this is what the bottom will look like. It will kind of look different, obviously, because we started with the single crochets, and make sure that, yeah, you're starting with the right side. And line them up a little bit, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And I just accidentally undid a stitch or two, but that's okay. There we go, and we are going to chain 1 at the end, and then line them up, and we have to go and flip this around because we crochet going this direction, not that direction. So anyways, here we are, and you can put a stitch marker where you want to stop if you want, like at the 15 stitches, but for me, that's a small enough number that I'm able to just count that amount. But what we're gonna do is insert it in the first stitch there and go into the first stitch that we have on the other panel. Again, making sure that it's the top of that other panel. We're going to go in, so we're in both of them now, take it through, and then we're taking it through again. So that's called a slip stitch, and this is going to be called like slip stitch to bind is what we're doing right now. And then we're going to go into the next one, so that's 2, pull through the 2, and then pull through this one. Number 3, number 4, number 5, and so on like that, down until you get to that number that you decided on where you want your neck to be. And that's kind of what it should look like, so it doesn't stick out too much. And yeah, go all the way. So for me, I need to do 10 more to get to that 15 total where I want, and then I'll show you how we're going to disconnect our yarn and start the other side. All right, there we are. I've made it to my 15 stitches, so that's what's going to make up my shoulder on the one side, and it should be looking like this. So what we're going to need to do is chain 1, and then you can take your hook a little bit looser. We are going to cut like here, let's say. We don't need too much string, just enough so it doesn't get lost. And then what you're going to do is pull through like that and kind of tighten it up. And there we go, that's our first shoulder, and we'll deal with the ends after, so they won't be sticking out like that. Now for the next shoulder, we're going to do the same number, so you're going to need to reset like your yarn. So what I said is make the X, come through to make that slip knot. But again, any way that you want is totally fine for that. And then we are going to need to do the same thing on this side. So we're going to insert into that first stitch, and same thing on the other side, inserting into the first stitch, and then we're going to do this and pull through just like that. Then you can tighten your slip knot there. Second one, third one, fourth one, and fifth one. And again, it's going to be the same thing all the way down, just like we did on the other side. And once we've gotten to that 15, just like we did on the other side, we're going to chain 1, cut our yarn, and pull through and tighten a little bit. So that's what it should look like on this side and on this side, and that's my neck hole there. The next thing that we're going to do is going to be a little bit more tricky just in finding what measurement we need, but nothing we can't handle. I think what I like to do for this is actually take my piece, I'm just wearing a black tank top, and put it on. So this is going to be a little bit silly because it's just 2 squares basically, but you want to put your head through the neck hole. First of all, make sure that it fits. Mine does, just as I wanted. And now we need to find out where we want to make our armholes. So I hope that I'm in frame all right, but you're basically just going to want to make sure that this like apex or whatever, what we just did, is on the top of your shoulder, like how it would sit like a normal shirt. And then kind of like pinch it down, you know, where it is. Make sure that the bottom are aligned as well. Sorry, that was my dog. And then find like how big do you want your armhole to be? So do you want it to be like a really oversized arm? Do you want it to be a really tight arm, or do you want it kind of in the middle? So for me, I think I want it kind of in the middle. So with me, with my variegated yarn, it's really easy to see where I will want to stop, but I'm just going to, again, make sure that everything is lined up. And I think I want my armhole to go until this orange row here. So I will put a stitch marker in there or something. For me, I'll just use, I have a paper clip, so I'll just put the paper clip in there. And then these are all the rows below that I need to attach together. And then I'll just go for the other side. I'll obviously make it the same amount. So that's basically what you need to do. So I really hope this makes sense, and I'll of course show you how to attach these rows together. All right, and I do have to preface this by saying again, I'm by no means a perfectionist when it comes to my crochet. So there's probably better ways for you to attach this, but it's easy for me and it always works for me. And I don't want to make things more complicated than they should be. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and again, I have my stitch marker up here. So I'm going to insert into down here. I don't know how to describe it. It's like our first row, and we don't have clear stitches. That's why it's a little harder, but it's all fine because we'll go into the sides of them. And then on the other side, we're going to do a similar thing. That's where we have our yarn or whatever you want to call it. This is where we should be going into, but it might be really hard for us. No, it's fine. There we go. And what you're going to do, make sure that this is tight, of course, is the same thing that we did on the side. Pull through those two, and then pull through that last one, and make sure that you tighten that yarn. And then next one we have is this pink one here. I'm going to insert there, and on the other side it's orange. Or for me, of course, for you it might be different. Insert and pull through. The next one is this one here. Insert. Other side, insert. So this is very intuitive, like where you're trying to find the stitches. Well, not really, but it's just a little bit harder. For this one, we're going to go in here. If it will let me. Yeah. And then there on the other side. You just want to make sure that whatever you're doing to one side, you're doing to the other, so that, I mean like panel, so that when you get to that stitch marker, it should be the same. I'm gonna go in there and there. And sometimes if it's too hard for you to get into the stitches themselves, you can go into the gaps, no worries. Again, at the end of the day, it probably won't make your piece look that different, whatever you do. Here, I'm gonna go in here and somewhere here. And just like we've done all the other times, we're gonna keep going until we get to that stitch marker. We have these two connecting, and just make sure always that your panels are lined up, the stitches are lined up. It might look differently on each side. Like you see here, we have like this 2 stitches here, and then on the other side we only have 1. It's because we're working on opposite sides of the panel, so we started this row and then we finished this row, if that makes sense. So they might look a little different, but we're just gonna have to be a little bit intuitive and see where we need to be inserting our hook and making sure that the panels are aligned. You don't leave too big gaps between where you're connecting. Like, try to connect as frequently as possible. Like, for example, I'm going to connect on the next stitch right here. I'm not going to connect like over here, because then it's going to scrunch up a lot and you're going to lose a lot of your length. So maybe that's very obvious, but just make sure that you're connecting as frequently as possible. And if you mess it up a little, again, it's totally fine, because in all honesty, I don't really think that anyone is going to notice. Like, I don't know, it's just, don't stress about the little details, because in the end, I think that your piece will look amazing. No matter if you missed 1 or 2 stitches, right? Like, it'll be more or less the same. Okay, so I'm approaching the end here. I just have this one more row to do, and that's the orange row. that I put the stitch marker on. So, and now that was my last stitch, because next I would be moving on to this row, and that's how big I want my sleeve to be. So just like we did on the neck, we are going to chain 1 and then cut our yarn and pull that through. So that's what it looks like for me. It's a little bit messy just because there are no actual stitches, but like, look, that's totally fine, and no one's looking down your side to see how neat your stitches are. I'm going to move my stitch marker that I had here to the other side. So I'm just following that row all the way down, all the way, and here it is. Put my stitch marker there. And now it's a green row. That is where we will be ending our sleeve, if that makes sense. And again, it's going to be literally pretty much almost the exact same thing on this side, just going down. So you can rewind to see what I just did, but again, it's very intuitive. So go where your heart desires, but just make sure that you're doing enough. All right, now we have reached the end of stitching together the body, and we only have one step left, which is to do each of the sleeves. For this, what I personally like to do is flip my work inside out so that this is the side that people will be seeing. I personally think that it looks neater, so I just literally just flip it inside out like you would any garment of clothing, because you see now you can barely see where we stitched it together. Like, it kind of just looks like the two merged, and then same with the top. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like this, you can really see the bump or whatever you want to call it, the ridge, and this one you can't really. So that's what I like to do. If you like the way that the other one looks better, then you don't have to do this step of flipping it inside out, but I personally think that it makes it look a lot neater. So to do the sleeves is really simple because, well, again, it's very customizable, but I like a shorter sort of like cap sleeve style. So it doesn't take a lot of rows, but for the rows that I show you, if you want a longer sleeve going down to like your mid bicep area, or even further, like extending to a long sleeve, you can just either find some of the rows that we did here, like the ones that you like this one or this one, and do those. Like, you can do the triple crochet with a gap, you know, half double crochet, anything you want. But for me, I'll show you what the steps that I do. So the first thing to start with is we are obviously going to attach our yarn, and I like to attach my yarn down here where we attach the sides together, because this is basically where the like bottom of your armpit will be. So that's where we'll have the seam together, but it'll be the least noticeable in my opinion. I'm of course attaching the yarn to my hook, and then I'm going to insert it just like here, for example, wherever you want really. And then I'm going to do a single crochet. And the first row, well, the first 3 rows are all going to be single crochet. So just like when we were doing the side, it might be a little bit hard to find where you need to do your single crochet, but just make sure that you're not doing too little. And we're just going to go like into, you know, wherever you see an opportunity, basically, wherever you see a gap, we're going to go into, and we're going to be working in the round for the sleeves because we've already attached the body panels, which means that we don't have to like stitch it together after, which is really easy and nice. But yeah, we're just going to go into wherever we see an opportunity to put our hook. And then we'll do this all the way around, like I said, and for the next 2 rows as well, but I'll show you what to do when we get to the end of the row, because working in the round is a little different, but nothing crazy. All right, we're at the top here, and I'm just going to move these yarns to the side because they're getting in my way. Just go over them like that. I might include them in my next row, and I'll show you what to do for that to like hide this yarn better. But in my first row, since it's already hard for me to find the stitches, I won't bother with those. All right, I've made it to where I started again here. Just finishing up. That's where I already put one single crochet in that stitch there, and I'm going to do another one just because it's like kind of hard. And then basically what we're going to do is going into this first single crochet, which might be hard because the yarn is so tight at the beginning. It should loosen. We're going to do a slip stitch like so. And then we're going to chain 1 because we're only doing single crochets. And I am going to put my yarn here so I can put it together. We need to skip that first one where we attached it and go into the second one and single crochet again for a second row. And as you can see, I'm like going under this scrap yarn that I have, and it's kind of like being hidden within the middle of the stitches, if that makes sense. So yeah, same thing, single crochet, and this one should be really easy because we know exactly where our stitches are. So it should be really easy for us to see where to go. And then yeah, once I get to the end, I'll catch you again. All right, I'm at the end of my row here. I just have, this might be a little bit hard to see here where you are actually ending, but we're working in the round, so it's okay. And it's harder because we're doing the single crochets. So yeah, we can just like kind of just like go around. We don't really need to like chain 1 technically for now, since it is just the single crochets. So I'm just going to keep going around for this one, but when we get to the next one, I'll show you what to do since we are changing stitch. But I'm just going to continue doing my last row, my third row of the single crochets. All right, again, we're at the end of our row. We just have one more stitch of the single crochet, and then we would be switching to row 3. So we've done 3 rows of our lovely single crochets. Now we're going to do double crochet in 1 chain gap. So because we were working in the round and it's a little weird, and because I might have just, you know, made it easier than it needs to be, is I just chained 1, and now I'm just going to go into this one with a double crochet. So you just have to pay attention, but I mean, it should be really clear to you to see where the row ended and started. Chain 1 and double crochet. We've done this many times throughout the body of doing the 1 chain gap and skipping that stitch, of course. But again, chaining 1, skipping the stitch, going into this one and doing the double crochet. So just like we did on the bodies, we're going to do this one all the way around, and this is our second last row of the sleeve. So here we are at the end of the row. And like I said, it might be a little hard to tell where we started, but I don't think it is. That's where we started, but I am going to do, because it's an odd number, I'm just going to go ahead and do a double crochet in here and not a 1 chain gap. And then I'm going to go into here and slip stitch those together. And then I'm going to chain 1. And for our final row, we are going to do half double crochets, basic half double crochets all the way around. So we're going to go just like that, like we did in the main body. Oh, I'm getting all tangled up here. Okay, so I'm here at the end of the fifth row. I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm at the end of the row of this row of half double crochets. I'm just going to go into the first stitch and do a slip stitch so that they're nice and connected. Then I'm going to do a chain 1, of course, and cut my yarn and pull it through so we're nice and secure there. Pull it down. And yeah, as you can tell, this is where my neck is. This sleeve is a very, very short sleeve. It's basically just like, yeah, like a cap sleeve, I guess. It's almost not even there, but it is. So I'm gonna go and do the other sleeve, and then you can just rewind if you need the instructions again, but I'm just doing the exact same thing on the other side. And again, if you wanted to increase this further, you totally can. You can do any random rows, or you can repeat these 2 or all of these, whatever you want basically, but I just like it to be a small little sleeve. And I'm gonna do this on the other side, and then I'll come back for the final step, which will be the dreaded weaving in of the ends. Okay guys, we are done the shirt. I've just finished the second sleeve, but I'll show you what I do to weave in the ends. And again, this is just me, so if you have an way that you like better, there's probably a lot of better ways out there. For sure, go ahead and do that, but I just want to show for anyone who wants to do this way, this is the way that I do it. It's really simple and easy. I'll basically just like weave the yarn through the stitches, and again, this isn't perfect because the stitches are kind of loose, the yarn might come out, but for me that really doesn't bother me. And it's, I don't know, I just find it really hard to be like trying to go in like here, but I'll show you that you can do that. Like for example, you can come in through these two here, and then these two, or you can just go through the top if you don't really care about having the ends, but that's like the way that it will look. So because it's a variegated yarn, it's not perfect, but hey, it's actually really fine at the end of the day. So I'm just going to do one more and then I'm going to cut it because I think that's plenty. You just want to have like a good inch or two so that there's no chance, well, you know, so that it won't come out, but it shouldn't come out anyways. And then I'll find my next one, which is over here, and I'll do a similar thing going through. Maybe I'll try, yeah, I'll flip it and go through here. So it's really different. It's really just like depending on where you are with the yarn, you can do different things, if that makes sense. Like it's going to be different for each one, but I'm just going to go through these stitches here because this will be on the inside, so no one will be able to see it anyways. And I'll just do like maybe 7 stitches or so and then cut the yarn, because so just like that, and do that on all the other ones. So like for this one, we'll do the same thing. For this one, we'll do what we did beginning, and just so on and so forth, you know, putting them in wherever you can find room, basically. And for the grand reveal, this is what mine ended up looking like. I think it's so cute. I just have on a black shirt on, or tank top underneath, but you can see I'm just on my knees how lovely and just, I don't know, cool this shirt is. I just love making these ones because it goes really quick and there's just so much different stitches. So I find it to be really cool, if that's the correct way to describe it. But yeah, I'm so happy with this, and I hope that you guys were able to follow this tutorial easily and that it helped you in making a shirt similar to this, or maybe you made a more oversized one or an even more cropped one, or but anyways, I just really hope that this helped you in what you were making and that it was a good tutorial. Check my channel if you're interested in anything else. I don't have any other tutorials at the moment, but I am working on another, like a sweater one, because I just love crocheting sweaters and I have a go-to style that I haven't really seen. Well, it's very, anyways, I'm working on a sweater pattern, all that to say, so that'll be available shortly, but just wanted to show this one for now, if that makes sense. It is my first pattern, so go easy on me. But if you guys have any questions, if I wasn't clear about something, please feel free to leave them in the comments. But as I said, it is my first tutorial, well, not pattern because there's no pattern, but tutorial. So I hope it was good, basically all that to say. But yeah, check my channel if you're interested in anything else, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much.